So millions of dollars of new stimulus checks, everybody, are beginning to be sent out this week. Checks worth up to $250 are set to be deposited automatically for Americans, and there are new requirements that have to be met as well. Rhode Island will start issuing child tax credit rebates to around 120,000 households this week, and according to the Rhode Island governor, the Rhode Island child tax credit rebate, which is part of the state's fiscal year budget, offers a one-time tax credit of $250 per child of the 3 children. Governor McKee said our administration is continuing to deliver relief to Rhode Islanders as we build on our state's economic momentum. So more people can expect to receive stimulus checks this year, that's for sure. The Rhode Island child tax credit is also part of the fiscal year budget. It offers a one-time tax credit of $250 per child of the 3 children. And Governor McKee said our administration is continuing to deliver relief to Rhode Islanders as we build on our state's economic momentum. The child tax rebate program allows us to distribute over $40 million in direct support, specifically to middle and lower income families with children. And the credit is for dependents in tax year 2021. And the credit also will be available for single tax filers making less than $100,000 or joint filers who make less than $200,000. One state official has even told reporters this week, "We know that costs are rising nationwide, and that's why Rhode Island is continuing to step up and provide relief on utility prices, small business tax, and everyday costs." For one, everybody, checks will be automatically sent to eligible families, and no separate application is actually required, so you can actually get a check faster than you think. And if you have at least one dependent child, 18 or older, then you don't have to do anything. The State Division of Taxation has gone through Rhode Island 2021 tax returns and prepared tax credits for anyone with children. If you filed a tax return this spring, you should get your child tax credit by the end of this month. If you filed for an extension, you should get your credit by the end of the year. So Connecticut will also soon beginning to send out stimulus checks of $750 to families across the state. Applications for the rebate are also beginning to go out this month, and the 2022 child tax credit rebate is the result of crisis relief legislation. Stimulus bills, that is. Governor Ned Lamont has actually publicly supported continuing this policy in the future. The Department of Revenue Services in Connecticut is also supposed to be processing applications for the program. State officials estimate that between 300,000 and 350,000 households are eligible for this credit. Illinois residents also have 12 days to file their 2021 taxes to receive up to $700 in tax rebates as part of the state's relief plan. A bill backed by the senator has also set aside millions of dollars to fund tax rebates, aiming to provide financial support amid increased expenses in the state. And those who have not yet filed their taxes have until October 17 to receive the payments, which are set to begin going out in the next couple of days. You should expect to receive a stimulus check, everybody. I'm for real. Eligible residents who have filed their 2021 taxes are currently eligible for $700, for instance, and those filing individually and making less than $200,000 will receive a $50 rebate. Joint filers making below $400,000 will be given $100, and filers will receive an additional $100 per dependent for a maximum of 3 dependents. Illinois and the residents, everybody, who have paid property taxes in 2021 on the primary residence will also be rewarded in additional $300. So stimulus checks for everybody, and be ready for more stimulus payments.
Form so far for this off-year election, led by Senator Scott from down in Florida, as well as Senator Johnson from up in Wisconsin. And you know what they argue? This is on paper, that in fact we should be in a situation where Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid should have to be voted on every single year. Every year. The guy from Florida says every 5. The guy from Wisconsin says no, every year, including veterans benefits. So the idea is you either vote for them or they go out of existence, or you cut them. But you gotta affirmatively vote every year. You've been paying into a Social Security account from the time you were 16 years old in your first summer job. It's not fair. And the biggest thing they say they want to do, they want to get rid of the number one priority, and they've spoken to it. They want to repeal the Inflation Reduction Act. That means they're going to repeal the $2,000 cap on prescription drugs, gone. Cap on insulin, gone, at $35. Saving on health care premiums, average of $400 a person, gone. Savings on your utility bills, gone. Corporate minimum tax of 15%. By the way, they got very upset with me. You know what I did? Well, there were 55 American corporations made $40 billion in 2005. Did not pay a single penny, not a penny in federal taxes. So I was so harsh. I suggested they pay 15%, less than you pay. 15%. Pay for all this in Spanish. Guess what? My Republican colleagues think that's unfair. They want to repeal that tax. Folks, you know, Republicans are going to make you and working middle-class folks pay higher taxes than the biggest corporations. And by the way, in every single piece of legislation I've gotten passed with the help of the people here, we have not raised the tax on anybody making less than $400,000 a year, 1 penny. I wish I was making 400. You were making 400 grand, but not a single penny. No, I mean it, not a single penny. Republican wins, inflation is going to get worse. It's that simple.
So
high levels continue into this year. And I'm wondering if you can discuss the FTC's whole of government approach to protect the American people from what I suspect it could be the threat of unlawful consolidation.
It's absolutely true. Last year was totally a blockbuster year for M&A. We saw volume off the charts. We're working very closely with our government partners, particularly when they have particular expertise in an industry. So when we were able to sue to block the Lockheed Aerojet merger in the defense industry, we worked very closely with DoD. We've entered all sorts of new partnerships and new agreements with agencies across the board, including the National Labor Relations Board, to make sure that when there are issues affecting workers, that we're totally aligned. So this is an area where we continue to deepen our partnerships because, we're just one agency and there are a whole set of agencies with tools and statutory authorities that would also enable to them to check consolidation. And I think the president's deep commitment to this whole of government approach in particular has really lent new momentum and vigor to this effort. And we're incredibly proud to be part of that.
Thank you. I just want to thank you both for your commitment and service to this country. Thank you very much. And to the chairwoman, forgive me for being so rude, but next time you leave me in charge, please give me the hammer. Okay.
Promise you that.
Thank you.
Golden gavel.
All right.
Okay.
Chuck Schumer is ready to use budget reconciliation process to pass President Biden's massive spending bill. But other Democrats want to include more relief into the bill before it is officially passed. This can mean recurring stimulus checks, everybody. So you want to continue to watch this video so you never miss out on the most important stimulus news. Here is some breaking news on President Biden's Build Back Better package. Democrats face big obstacles and a deadline measured in weeks as they attempt to pass a scaled-down tax, climate, and healthcare package that could give them a boost ahead of the November elections. Conversations are underway between Manchin and Chuck Schumer to negotiate a budget reconciliation bill that would require only a simple majority for passage that will meet Manchin's demands without losing support from many other Democrats. But even if legislation is written to accommodate Manchin, Sinema remains a crucial question mark. The reconciliation bill would need the support of the entire Democratic caucus and the evenly divided Senate to pass with a tie-breaking vote from Kamala Harris. Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin were holdouts to earlier versions of the reconciliation measure. Sinema came to generally support the Senate framework, but only after her objections trimmed the bill from $3.5 trillion to $2 trillion, and tax rate increases were replaced with other revenue raisers. The slimmed-down measure under discussion would raise about $1 trillion in new tax revenue, down from roughly $1.5 trillion in the House-passed Build Back Better bill. In a draft Senate Finance Committee amendment, corporate and international provisions raising roughly $800 billion, like a global minimum tax intend to cut down on overseas profit shifting, and they're expected to remain the core with a smattering of other provisions to make up the difference. Also in line with both earlier versions is the emerging framework that would produce about $300 billion in savings from allowing Medicare to negotiate certain prescription prices and other cost-saving pharmaceutical options. Reining in prescription prices has been a top priority for Manchin throughout the negotiations. Sinema last year helped negotiate the initial prescription pricing framework that was included in the reconciliation bill. However, it's not yet clear where Sinema might land on specific language, and there's speculation that she may have other concerns with the latest version. The content of reconciliation bills needs to be verified with Senate parliamentarians like Elizabeth McDonough, and it is difficult for provision to survive without her approval. The review process began last year but has not yet been concluded. And with the ongoing crisis, millions of people are anxiously waiting for their fourth stimulus check. A change.org petition for $2,000 a month stimulus checks has already hit 3 million signatures. The petition pushes for recurring stimulus checks to be sent each month until the end of the crisis. Congress provided 3 stimulus checks to qualifying Americans in response to the crisis. And like the previous 3 stimulus checks, a 4th stimulus check would come from Congress supporters of another round of stimulus, say that a single stimulus check is not enough to help people who are struggling financially during this time. Democratic Representative Ilhan Omar and 55 Democrats sent a letter to President Biden to support recurring stimulus checks, and 21 Democratic senators have urged President Biden to deliver recurring direct payments in a letter. The lawmakers argued that the last federal stimulus check of $1,400 was just not enough to support low-income families throughout this time.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and thank you very much, Hakeem Jeffries and Pete Aguilar. We got out late Thursday or early Friday morning, and I think everybody was sort of wondering, how is this going to go? And we call it a retreat, but I call it resolving that we will continue to work on behalf of the people. That resolve was strengthened by the positive nature of what Sean Maloney is going to tell you in a short time, but also by the panelists that we heard, focused on how we reach out, make policies for the people to lift them up. And very frankly, the American people in this country and the world received a gut punch from the pandemic. And we have responded with vigor and with effectiveness to that gut punch, which is why we are confronting an economy that is one of the fastest growing economies that we've seen in many decades. We mentioned the number of people employed at 7.4 or 5 or 6 million people. That's in the context of, in the previous 4 years prior to the Biden administration, losing 2.2 million jobs in America. What an extraordinary turnaround. Unemployment now down 4% and lower. We come to Philadelphia, the birth of our democracy.